November 12th, 1864, Western Virginia, Appalachian Ridges. My name is Corporal Daniel Marsh, and I kept the records for Captain Holloway's detachment, 32 men of the 14th Ohio Infantry, pursuing Confederate irregulars through country that had no allegiance to either side. My job was simple: account for supplies, note casualties, record distances travelled. Numbers made sense. The war made sense in its terrible way. What happened in those mountains made no sense at all. We'd been marching for 6 days through the kind of cold that lived in your bones. The ridges stretched endlessly, covered in naked hardwoods and laurel thickets so dense a man could vanish 3 feet from the trail. Each morning, frost covered everything white. Each night, we huddled around fires that never gave enough warmth, eating hardtack and salt pork, our breath hanging in clouds that caught the firelight. Captain Holloway was a Massachusetts man, tall and severe, with a beard going grey at 40. He'd survived Antietam and Chancellorsville, carried a Colt revolver he cleaned every evening, and trusted his maps more than local guides. Sergeant Pike was our anchor, Kentucky-born, 20 years in the army, shoulders like an ox and hands scarred from a lifetime of labour. He knew how to keep men moving when everything in them wanted to stop. Then there was Marcus Webb, our scout, part Cherokee, part white, all business. He moved through the forest like smoke, reading signs the rest of us couldn't see. His eyes never stopped working, always watching, always measuring. When he spoke, men listened. The younger ones included Private Howell, barely 19, who still wrote letters to his mother every Sunday. Corporal Brennan handled the pack mules with endless patience, speaking to them in Irish that sounded like music. Private Dalton was our hothead, quick to anger, quicker to fight, always volunteering for the dangerous work. And there was Father Mackey, our chaplain, older than Holloway, who said Mass on Sundays with shaking hands and carried a Bible so worn the pages fell out. We'd made camp that evening in a hollow beside a creek, water running black over stones, the trees pressed close, the laurel-formed walls on 3 sides. Pickets were posted at 50-yard intervals, standard procedure, though we'd seen no sign of Confederates for 2 days. That should have pleased us. Instead, it made the men nervous. I was writing in my log by firelight when Marcus returned from his evening scout. He moved into the firelight without sound, the way he always did, and men jumped despite knowing him for weeks. "Captain," he said, "found something." Holloway looked up from his map. "Confederates?" "No, sir." Marcus crouched, drawing in the dirt with a stick. Mile north, homestead, small cabin, smoke from the chimney, but no animals. No chickens. No hogs. No dog. "Abandoned?" Pike asked. "Smoke's fresh. Someone's there." Marcus looked at the captain. "But everything's too quiet. Wrong quiet." Sergeant Pike spat into the fire. "Mountain folk are strange. Could be they heard us come in, pen the animals inside." "Maybe." Marcus didn't sound convinced. Captain Holloway studied his map, then folded it. "We'll investigate at first light. Could be civilians needing assistance, or could be guerrillas lying low. Pike, double the pickets tonight. I want..." That's when we heard it. A woman's voice singing. The whole camp went silent. The voice drifted from somewhere north, impossibly clear despite the distance. The melody was old, something that belonged in a church or a funeral. The words were indistinct, but the sound carried through the cold air like it was meant for us. "That's coming from the cabin," Marcus said quietly. "One woman, alone, singing at night." Brennan crossed himself. "Mother of God, probably just trying to comfort herself," Holloway said, but his hand had moved to his revolver. "Pike, send 2 men to investigate. Tell them to..." The singing stopped. The silence that followed felt heavier than the sound. Every man in camp was staring north into the darkness, where the trees became solid black, the fires crackled, the creek ran, but everything else had gone still. "The birds stopped," Marcus said. I hadn't noticed until he said it, but he was right. The constant rustle and chirp of the forest had ceased. Even the wind had died. "Check the perimeter," Holloway ordered. "Now." Pike barked commands, and men scrambled for their rifles. I grabbed my own Springfield, fingers clumsy with cold and sudden fear. The pickets called in, all positions secure, nothing seen, but I could hear the tension in their voices. We waited like that for an hour. The silence persisted. No singing returned. Eventually, Holloway ordered half the men to sleep while the others kept watch. I lay in my bedroll, staring at the stars through the bare branches, listening to my heart beat too fast. I didn't sleep. None of us did. Something had changed in those mountains. We all felt it. The numbers in my log couldn't account for the weight in the air, the way the darkness seemed to press against our fires, the absence of sound where sound should be. In my pack, I had documented our supplies, our route, our objectives. Everything ordered and rational. But I didn't have words for what we were feeling. Not yet. Dawn came late, the sun barely penetrating the clouds that sat on the ridges like dirty wool. We broke camp in near silence, men moving with the efficiency of soldiers, but without the usual grumbling and banter. The cold had deepened overnight. When I breathed, it hurt. Marcus led a patrol toward the cabin. 6 men, including myself, Sergeant Pike and Private Dalton. Holloway stayed with the main group, establishing a defensive position in case we stirred up trouble. The trail north was barely visible, just a deer track winding between laurel and oak. We'd gone half a mile when Marcus stopped, crouching to examine the ground. "What is it?" Pike asked. "Tracks," Marcus pointed. "Barefoot, woman's size, leading toward our camp." I stared at the impression in the frost-covered mud. 5 toes, a narrow heel, fresh, made during the night. "She walked toward us." Dalton's voice pitched higher. "In the dark, barefoot in this cold." "Not walked," Marcus said quietly. He pointed ahead, where more tracks appeared at intervals. "Look at the spacing. She was running." The tracks led within 30 yards of where our camp had been, then veered away, circling to the east. At one point, they stopped completely. In the soft earth beneath a pine tree, we found where she'd stood for some time. 10 minutes, maybe more, based on how deeply the impression settled. "She watched us," Pike said, "stood right here and watched." The pine tree overlooked our camp perfectly. Whoever had stood here would have seen everything, our fires, our pickets, our positions. The thought made my stomach tighten. Marcus followed the tracks east. They continued for another 100 yards, then simply ended at a creek. "Crossed the water," Pike suggested. "Maybe." Marcus walked both banks for 50 yards, in each direction. No tracks coming out anywhere. We continued to the cabin. It sat in a small clearing, logs chinked with mud, a stone chimney leaking thin smoke. The yard was bare earth, hard packed. A well stood to one side, bucket missing. The door hung slightly open. "Hello, the house," Pike called. No answer. The smoke continued rising. Somewhere inside, a fire burned. We approached in a line, rifles ready. Pike pushed the door wider with his boot. Hinges creaked. The interior was a single room, dim, smelling of wood smoke and something else, something organic and wrong. A fire burned low in the hearth. A pot hung over it, contents bubbling. A table, a chair, a bed frame with no mattress. Everything covered in dust except the hearth. "Nobody's lived here in months," Pike said. But the fire was fresh. The pot was cooking something. I moved closer and immediately wished I hadn't. The smell hit me, sharp, rancid, like meat left too long in heat. The pot contained water and what looked like bones. Small bones. Possibly rabbit. Possibly something else. "Jesus Christ," Dalton whispered. Marcus was examining the floor. "Here." He pointed to tracks in the dust, the same bare footprints we'd followed. They went to the hearth, then to the door, then back to the hearth, over and over. A pacing pattern. Someone had walked this circuit dozens of times. "We need to leave," I said. My hand shook on my rifle. "Agreed." Pike moved toward the door. That's when we saw her. She stood at the tree line, maybe 60 yards away. A woman in a dark dress, arms at her sides, perfectly still. Her hair hung long and black. From that distance, in the weak morning light, I couldn't make out her features. But she was watching us. I felt it. "Ma'am," Pike called. "Are you in need of assistance?" She didn't move, didn't respond, just stood there like a post driven into the ground. "Ma'am, we're Union soldiers. We mean you no harm." Nothing. The stillness was absolute. She didn't sway or shift weight, didn't blink as far as I could tell, didn't breathe in a visible way. "This is wrong," Marcus said quietly. "We should..." She turned and walked into the forest, smooth, unhurried, without looking back. The laurel swallowed her. "Should we follow?" Dalton asked. "No," Pike and Marcus said simultaneously. We returned to camp double time, constantly looking over our shoulders. I kept expecting to see her behind us, standing and watching. The feeling of being observed pressed against my back like a hand. When we reported to Captain Holloway, he listened with his usual stern expression, but I saw his jaw tighten. "A woman?" Alone, in these mountains during wartime, he said. Possibly displaced by the fighting, possibly suffering from trauma or exposure. The cabin could be her home, abandoned and returned to. With all respect, sir, Marcus said, that woman wasn't suffering from exposure, and nobody lives like that, cooking bones in the middle of nowhere. Nevertheless, she's a civilian. Unless she demonstrates hostile intent, she's not our concern. Holloway folded his arms. We continue south at noon. The irregulars we're pursuing. Captain, Marcus rarely interrupted. We should leave now. This isn't natural. Well, nothing about this war is natural, Webb. Holloway's voice carried steel. But we have orders. We march at noon. That's final. The men spent the morning tense and quiet. I updated my log, but the words felt hollow. How do you record a barefoot woman watching your camp? How do you document the weight of being seen? At 11 o'clock, Private Howard was checking his gear near the perimeter when he called out, "Corporal Marsh, you need to see this." I walked over. He pointed to a tree at the edge of camp, a large oak that had served as a corner marker for our picket line. Carved into the bark, fresh enough that sap still wept from the cuts, was a symbol. A circle with lines radiating from it like a child's drawing of the sun, but wrong somehow. The proportions were off. The lines curved when they should be straight. "What is it?" Howell asked. "I don't know." I touched the carving. The wood was still warm. "Corporal," Howell's voice dropped. "That wasn't here this morning. I checked this tree when I set the perimeter. I'd swear to it. Someone had carved it during the day, while we were all here, while men stood watch." I looked into the forest. The trees stood silent. The laurel formed walls. Somewhere out there, she was walking, or standing, or watching. I reported the carving to Pike, who studied it with a frown and said nothing. We marched south at noon, as ordered, following a ridge trail that would take us deeper into the mountains. By 3 o'clock, we found the dog. It lay across the trail, a hound of some kind, throat torn open. The blood was fresh, still spreading into the dirt, but the way it had been killed, the precision of the wound, the way the body had been positioned directly in our path, felt deliberate. "Warning," Marcus said. "From who?" Pike asked. "Confederates." "Not Confederates." Marcus crouched beside the animal. "Look at the wound. Single cut, straight across. No tearing, no fight. This dog let someone walk right up and cut its throat." "Dogs don't let strangers do that," Dalton said. "No," Marcus agreed. "They don't." We buried the dog and continued. The trail narrowed, laurel pressing close on both sides. The afternoon light, already weak, dimmed further. We walked in a column, rifles ready, every man watching the thickets. That's when we heard the singing again. It came from our left, somewhere in the laurel. The same wordless melody from the night before, but closer now, moving parallel to us. Every man stopped, turning toward the sound. "Form a line," Pike ordered. "Face west." We did, bringing our rifles up. The singing continued, never coming closer, never falling behind, just pacing us. I could hear the individual notes clearly. A woman's voice, pure and cold, singing something that sounded like a hymn but wasn't quite right. The melody had too many notes, or not enough. It fell on the ear wrong. "Show yourself," Holloway called. The singing stopped mid-note. The silence that followed felt predatory. We stood in our line, 32 men with loaded weapons facing a laurel thicket that showed nothing. The seconds stretched. My hands sweated inside my gloves despite the cold. Then, from the right, behind us, the singing resumed. We spun, rifles swinging. The sound came from where we'd just been, somewhere back up the trail. Closer now, maybe 40 yards. She got behind us, someone whispered. "Impossible," Pike said. "We would have seen..." The singing came from in front of us, then from the left, then from the right, all around us, overlapping. The same voice singing from 4 directions at once. "That's not possible," Dalton said, but his voice shook. "That's not fucking possible." The voices stopped. All of them, simultaneously. In the silence I heard my own breathing, too fast. Heard the creak of leather and wood as men shifted. Heard the hammer of my own heart. "Double time," Holloway said quietly. "Now." We moved fast, staying in formation, weapons ready. The singing didn't return, but as we marched, I felt certain that something was pacing us just beyond sight, moving through the laurel without sound, watching every step we took. We made camp in a natural depression, a bowl of earth surrounded by ridge on 3 sides. Good defensive position, clear sightlines. Pike posted 8 pickets in rotating shifts. We built the fires high, pushing back the darkness as far as we could. Father Mackey said evening prayers. His voice shook worse than usual, and I saw him grip his Bible like a man clutching a rope over a pit. The night came down hard and cold. The stars disappeared behind clouds. The darkness between our fires felt solid, like a wall we couldn't see but could feel pressing against us. At midnight, the picket on the east side screamed. We ran toward the sound, half the camp converging on Private Ashford's position. He stood rigid, rifle pointed at the darkness, face white in the firelight. "What?" Pike demanded. "What did you see?" "Her." Ashford's voice came out strangled. "She was right there, 10 feet away, just standing." "Did she attack you?" "Did she speak?" "No, she just stood there, looking at me." Ashford swallowed hard, except she didn't have a face. "What do you mean?" Holloway asked sharply. "I mean, she didn't have a fucking face, sir." Ashford was shaking now. Her head was blank, smooth, like skin, just grew over where her face should be. "The darkness was playing tricks," Pike said. "You saw shadows." "I saw her." Ashford's voice cracked. "She was right there. I could smell her, like old meat and dirt, and she had no face." We searched the perimeter, found nothing. No tracks, no sign anyone had been there, but Ashford wouldn't go back to his post. Eventually, Holloway assigned him to the centre camp and put someone else on that watch. I sat by the fire staring at my log. I should have been recording the day's march, the miles covered, the supplies consumed. Instead, I found myself writing a single sentence over and over. "She's out there," because she was. I could feel it. We all could. She was out there in the dark, watching us with a face that wasn't there. And we were exactly where she wanted us. Dawn brought no relief. If anything, the morning felt worse. The sky the colour of old bruises, the temperature dropping further, the forest holding a silence that made your ears ring. We broke camp without orders, men moving by instinct, everyone wanting to be gone from that place. Sergeant Pike called me over as I was securing my pack. His face looked older in the grey light, lines deep around his eyes. "Marsh, check the roster, full count." I pulled out my log, going through the names. 32 men had made camp last night. I counted carefully, checking faces against the list. My finger stopped. "Private Howell," I said. "He's not here." Pike swore quietly. "When did you last see him?" I tried to remember. Last night, after Ashford's incident. Howell had been by the fire writing one of his letters to his mother. After that, nothing. "Find him," Pike ordered. "Quietly, don't panic the men." We searched the camp in expanding circles, found his rifle leaning against a tree where he'd been sitting, found his letter, unfinished, the ink frozen on the page. The last line read, "Mother, I hear something calling," and then nothing. The pen had simply stopped. "Check the perimeter," Holloway ordered when we told him. He might have wandered off to relieve himself. Marcus found the tracks 20 yards from camp. Boot prints, Howell size, walking north into the forest. But the pattern was wrong. "He wasn't walking," Marcus said, crouched beside the trail. "Look at the spacing, too far apart. He was running." "Running from what?" I asked. "No," Marcus pointed behind us at the camp. "Running towards something." We followed the tracks. They went in a straight line, no deviation, crashing through laurel that should have forced a path to curb. Howell had simply ploughed forward, leaving broken branches and torn earth. The trail went 200 yards, then ended at a creek bank. No body, no blood, no sign of struggle, just boot prints leading to the water and then nothing. "The creek's only knee-deep," Dalton said. "We can search downstream." "No." Marcus was staring at something on the far bank. "Look." In the mud across the water, clear as day. Bare footprints, woman's size, leading away into the forest. "She was here," I said. She led him away. "People don't just vanish," Holloway said, but his conviction had cracked. "There's an explanation. He could have..." "He heard her singing," Father Mackey said quietly. Everyone turned. The old priest stood apart from us, clutching his Bible. "That's what the boy wrote. I hear something calling. She called and he went." "That's superstitious nonsense," Holloway snapped. "Is it?" Mackey's eyes were distant. "I grew up in these mountains, Captain. Before the seminary, before the war. My grandmother knew the old stories. Things that live in the deep forests. Things that wear shapes that aren't quite right. Things that call to travellers and lead them away." He looked at us. She told me about women with no faces who steal men in the night. Folklore, Holloway said, but quietly. Then where's Private Howell? Mackie asked. No one answered. We returned to camp. Holloway gathered everyone. Private Howell is missing, presumed lost. We don't know what happened. We're going to assume he became disoriented in the dark and will rejoin us. In the meantime, no one, and I mean no one, leaves the group for any reason. You need to piss, you take a partner. You hear something, you report it. You see something, you report it. We move as one unit. Understood? The men nodded, but I saw the fear in their faces. 32 had become 31. We marched south, keeping tight formation. The trail followed a ridge, forest on both sides, visibility limited. Every man kept his rifle ready. Every sound made us turn. The paranoia was thick enough to taste. At midday, we stopped briefly to rest and eat. I was chewing hardtack when Corporal Brennan approached me. Marsh, he said quietly, the mules are spooked, won't settle. Something's got them scared. I walked to where we'd tethered the pack animals. All four stood with ears flat, eyes rolling white, pulling against their ropes. I'd seen mules in battle during artillery barrages, and they'd been calmer than this. Easy, I said, reaching for the nearest one. It tried to bite me, teeth snapping inches from my hand. They've been like this since we crossed that last creek, Brennan said, acting like there's a predator nearby, wolf or panther. But wolves and panthers didn't make mules this terrified. This was deeper, instinctual, the kind of fear that made animals choose death over staying. Keep them close, I told Brennan. Don't let them bolt. Though if I'm honest, I'm considering bolting myself. He meant it as a joke, but neither of us laughed. We marched another 3 hours. The trail descended into a hollow, trees closing overhead like a tunnel. The light turned greenish and strange. Somewhere ahead, I heard water running, a larger creek, by the sound of it. Marcus stopped suddenly, raising his fist. The column halted. What? Pike moved forward. Marcus pointed. Ahead, hanging from a tree branch directly over the trail, was a dress, dark fabric, same as we'd seen on the woman. It swayed gently despite the absence of wind, turning in a slow circle. Don't touch it, Father Mackie said. It's just a dress, Holloway said, but he made no move forward. Marcus approached carefully, rifle up. He used the barrel to lift the fabric. The dress was torn, stained with something dark that could have been mud or blood. But what made my stomach turn was the way it hung. Not empty, but with weight, like something was still inside. Marcus jerked the barrel up, lifting the dress higher. Empty. Nothing inside, just fabric with weight it shouldn't have. He let it drop and stepped back quickly. We need to go around. There is no around, Pike said. The trail's hemmed by laurel on both sides. Going off trail would take hours. Then we go back, Marcus said. Back to what? Holloway gestured behind us. We've made 8 miles today. You want to surrender that ground? I want to survive, sir. They stared at each other. Finally, Holloway said, we proceed. Weapons ready. Fast march. We moved under the hanging dress in tight formation. As I passed beneath it, I looked up. The fabric swayed. Something dripped from it. Dark drops that hit my shoulder. I didn't look to see what it was. I just kept walking. The hollow opened into a clearing beside the creek. The water ran dark and fast, maybe 30 feet across. A fallen tree served as a bridge. On the far side, the trail continued. Cross in pairs, Pike ordered. Keep space between groups. Marcus and Dalton went first, moving quickly across the slick log. They made the far side and took up covering positions. 2 more men followed, then 2 more. I was in the 5th pair, crossing with Corporal Brennan. The log was slippery with moss, the creek loud below. Halfway across, Brennan grabbed my arm. Do you hear that? He asked. I listened. Beneath the creek's roar, something else. A voice. Singing. It came from upstream. We turned, looking. The creek bent around a boulder, maybe 50 yards away. Standing on the boulder, dress hanging in tatters, was the woman. This time, I could see her clearly in the afternoon light. She had no face, where features should have been. Eyes, nose, mouth. There was only smooth skin, pale as milk, unbroken except for a slight indentation, where a face might have been pressed against cloth and removed, leaving an impression, but no detail. Her head turned toward us. That blank surface orienting on our position with the certainty of eyes that weren't there. She raised one arm and pointed at us. "Move!" someone screamed. Brennan and I ran across the log. Behind us, men were scrambling over, formation breaking. The singing grew louder, more urgent, the melody rising to something that sounded like a command or a summons. I hit the far bank and turned. Every man was across except, "Where's Father Mackey?" Pike shouted. We looked back. The old priest stood on the far side, alone, Bible clutched to his chest. He was staring at the woman on the boulder. His lips moved, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. "Mackey!" Holloway screamed. "Cross! Now!" The priest shook his head slowly. "I hear her," he called back. His voice sounded distant, dreamy. "She's calling me. She says she knows me. She says she's been waiting." "Don't listen," Marcus shouted. "It's a trick." But Mackey was already walking. Not toward the log, toward the woman. He moved upstream along the bank, heading directly for the boulder where she stood, that faceless head tracking his approach. "Someone stop him!" Holloway grabbed his rifle, but the priest was already too far, moving into the laurel, disappearing from sight. The singing followed him, growing fainter. Then it stopped. We waited, called his name, fired shots in the air. Nothing. Father Mackey was gone. 31 had become 30. "We need to," Dalton started. "We need to move." Holloway cut him off. His face had gone white. "Now, before dark." We find open ground and we fought up. We marched at double time, leaving the creek behind. The forest felt different now, hostile. Every tree could hide something. Every shadow could hold her. And worst of all, we knew she was real now. Not imagination, not fear-induced hallucination. Real. And she was hunting us. We made camp on a bare hilltop just before sunset. Trees cleared for 50 yards in every direction. Old burn scar, maybe lightning strike. Good field of fire, nowhere to hide. The men worked without speaking, building fires, arranging bedrolls in a tight circle, loading weapons. I counted ammunition. We had enough for one sustained engagement, maybe two. After that, Marcus approached Captain Holloway as the light died. I was close enough to hear. "We need to talk about this," Marcus said. "What's there to talk about?" Holloway's voice was hollow. "We've lost 2 men to something. We don't know what. We proceed to the rendezvous point and we're being hunted," Marcus said flatly. "Whatever that thing is, it's picking us off. It took Howell while we slept. It took Mackey in broad daylight, and it's going to keep taking us until..." "Until what?" Holloway snapped. "Until we do what? Run? Desert our post? We're soldiers. We have orders. Our orders were to pursue Confederate irregulars. There are no Confederates here. There's only that thing. And if we stay in these mountains, we're all going to die." They stared at each other. Finally, Holloway said, "We'll reassess at dawn. For now, we hold this position." That night, we kept half the camp awake at all times, rotating watches every 2 hours. I took the midnight shift, standing with my rifle and staring at the darkness beyond our fires. The temperature had dropped below freezing. My breath made clouds. My fingers ached inside my gloves. At 2 o'clock, the singing began. It came from all sides, not the overlapping voices from before, just one voice, singular and clear, circling our camp at the edge of the firelight. She was walking around us, slowly, taking her time, letting us know she was there. Every man was awake now, rifles pointing outward. We turned as the voice moved, tracking it. She completed 1 circuit, 2, 3, always staying just beyond where we could see her, but close enough that her voice was intimate, like she was singing directly to each of us. Then she stopped. The silence was worse than the song. "Where is she?" someone whispered. "Hold position," Pike ordered. Eyes sharp. The scream came from our left. Private Dalton's voice, sudden and sharp and full of terror. We turned. He stood at his position, rifle fallen, staring at something. "She's right there, right fucking there. Why can't you see her?" We saw nothing, just darkness and trees. "She's 10 feet away." Dalton raised his hands. "She's reaching for me, she's..." He ran, just broke and ran, sprinting into the darkness beyond the firelight. We heard him crashing through the underbrush, heard his screams growing distant, heard the scream cut off, abruptly, mid-breath. Then nothing. We waited until dawn. Dalton never returned. At first light, Marcus and Pike found his rifle 50 yards from camp. No body, no blood, just the weapon lying in the leaves. and beside it, in the frost, bare footprints, leading away. 30 became 29. Captain Holloway sat by the dead fire, staring at nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was empty. "We're going to kill it," he said. "Whatever it is. We're going to hunt it down and kill it." "Sir," Pike started. "That's an order, Sergeant." Holloway stood. "We're soldiers. We don't run from enemies. We destroy them." He was right about one thing. We were soldiers. But what we were facing was no enemy we'd been trained to fight. The hunting party formed at dawn, 12 men including myself, Holloway, Pike and Marcus. We left the rest at the hilltop camp with orders to hold position and fire signal shots if attacked. The plan was simple: track the creature back to its lair, confront it and end this. Simple. But nothing about this was simple. Marcus led us back to where Dalton's rifle had been found. The bare footprints were still visible in the frost, leading north into a dense section of forest, where the laurel grew so thick it formed a tunnel. We moved in a column, weapons ready, every man watching every shadow. The tracks were consistent, same stride, same depth, no variation. Walking, not running, like she had all the time in the world, like she knew we'd follow. "This is wrong," Marcus said quietly. "She's leading us." "Then we're going where she wants us," Holloway replied, "which means that's where we'll find her." We followed the trail for an hour. The forest grew darker, the canopy thicker, the temperature dropped. Our breath came in clouds. The tracks never wavered, never turned, just led us deeper. We found the first marker at 10 o'clock. A tree had been carved with symbols like the one we'd seen in our camp. Circles with radiating lines, spirals, shapes that hurt to look at. The cuts were fresh, sap still running. "How many of these?" Pike asked. 6 so far," Marcus said, "marking a path, or a perimeter." "Perimeter of what?" No one answered. The tracks led to a ravine, steep-sided and choked with fallen timber. At the bottom, maybe 60 feet down, was a clearing, and in the clearing was a structure. Rough stone walls, no roof, ancient beyond measure. The walls were carved with more of those symbols covering every surface. "What is that?" someone asked. "Old," Marcus said. "Older than the settlements, older than my people's memory. Wrong old." In the centre of the structure, standing perfectly still, was the woman. From above we could see her clearly, the dark dress hanging in strips, the bare feet black with dirt and frostbite that should have killed her, the long black hair, and that face, that smooth, blank face that turned slowly upward toward us, tracking our position without eyes. "We have her," Holloway said. "Spread out, cover all exits from the ravine. On my signal we descend and—" She moved, one moment standing still, the next running, but not away, toward the ravine wall, directly below us, moving with a speed that wasn't human, wasn't possible, covering the ground in bounds that ate up distance. "Fire!" Holloway screamed. Rifles barked. I saw impacts on the stone walls, on the ground, but she was too fast, too unpredictable, moving in a zigzag pattern that made her impossible to track. She hit the ravine wall and started climbing. Actually climbing! Vertical stone. Her fingers found holds that shouldn't exist, her body moving up the wall like a spider, fast and wrong. "Keep firing!" Pike reloaded, shot, reloaded. We all did. The ravine echoed with gunfire. I saw one shot hit her shoulder, saw the impact, saw no blood. She didn't slow. She reached the top 30 feet from our position and came over the edge in a smooth motion, standing, facing us, that blank face turning slowly, regarding each of us in turn. This close, I could see details I wished I couldn't. Her skin was pale beyond any living colour, almost translucent, showing the shadow of veins beneath. Her hands were too long, fingers extended, nails black and thick. The blank face wasn't perfectly smooth. There were indentations where eyes should be, a slight bump where a nose might have been, like someone had pressed clay over a face and smoothed it down, leaving the faintest suggestion of what had been removed. She opened her mouth. I saw it happen. The skin of her face split horizontally, just opened, revealing darkness inside and teeth. Too many teeth, going back too far, sharp and white and wet. The singing came from that mouth, but multiplied, layered, like a dozen voices using one throat. Then she lunged. Marcus was closest. He fired point blank. The shot took her in the chest. She grabbed his rifle and tore it from his hands like taking a toy from a child, threw it aside and reached for him. Pike shot her in the head. The bullet snapped her head back but didn't stop her. She turned toward Pike, that mouth opening wider, and made a sound like a shriek and a laugh combined. "Run!" someone screamed, and the formation broke. We scattered into the forest, all tactics abandoned, pure panic driving us. I ran without thought, crashing through laurel, branches tearing my uniform, rifle forgotten. Behind me, I heard screams, short, sharp, ending abruptly. Heard gunshots, heard that terrible singing voice rising above everything. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs gave out, until I collapsed behind a fallen log and lay gasping. After a moment, I heard movement nearby. I brought my rifle up. Marcus appeared, wild-eyed and bleeding from a cut on his face. Then Corporal Brennan, limping, then Pike, then 3 more men. We crouched together, saying nothing, trying to breathe quietly. "Where's Holloway?" Pike finally whispered. No one knew. We'd scattered in different directions. The 7 of us were all that had regrouped. "We need to get back to camp," Brennan said. "Regroup with—" The singing cut him off. Close, too close, moving through the forest toward us. "She's tracking us," Marcus said. "She's hunting us individually now." "Then we stay together," Pike said. 7 rifles. We can—" 7 rifles didn't stop her, I said. Nothing stopped her. She took 3 shots to the body and 1 to the head, and she didn't even slow down. "Then what do we do?" one of the men asked. "Private Anders, I think." His voice shook. "We can't kill her. We can't run from her. What the fuck do we do?" The singing was getting closer, moving methodically. She knew where we were. "The old structure," Marcus said suddenly. "In the ravine, those symbols. They weren't decorations. They were warnings. Or wards. Maybe what?" Pike snapped. "Maybe we hide in the thing's own lair. Maybe whatever built that place knew how to deal with her." Marcus looked at each of us. "Or maybe we just keep running until she picks us off one by one. Your choice." The singing was maybe 50 yards away now. We could hear branches breaking as she moved. "We go," Pike decided. "Now, quiet." We moved as a group, trying to be silent, but knowing speed mattered more. The ravine wasn't far. We'd run in a rough circle. Within minutes, we were at the edge, looking down at the structure. "How do we get down without being seen?" Brennan asked. "We don't," Pike said. "We go fast and hope. Move." We descended in a controlled slide, half running down the steep slope, using trees to slow ourselves. I lost my footing halfway and tumbled the last 20 feet, hitting the bottom hard enough to see stars. Hands grabbed me, Anders and Brennan pulling me up. We ran for the structure, got inside the walls, just as the singing crested the ravine edge above us. She stood there, silhouetted against the grey sky, looking down at us. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she started down the slope, but she was moving slower, carefully, and at the structure entrance, she stopped. She reached out one hand, extending those 2 long fingers toward the carved symbols on the stone. Her hand touched the carvings and jerked back like she'd been burned. She made a sound, not singing, but a hiss, sharp and angry. "The symbols," Marcus breathed. "They're keeping her out." She paced the perimeter, testing each wall, reaching toward the carvings and pulling back. Each time that hiss, that frustration. "We're trapped," Anders said. "She's got us cornered." "But she can't get in," Pike said. "We can wait her out. Eventually." "Eventually what?" I asked. "We have no food, no water, and she's immortal apparently. She can wait longer than us." We watched her circle the structure. She'd stopped testing the walls and was simply walking around us, around and around, like a shark circling prey. The singing had resumed. That wordless melody that seemed to get inside your head and live there. "There has to be a way to kill her," Pike said. "Everything dies." "Maybe she's already dead," Marcus said quietly. "Maybe she's been dead for a long time." An hour passed. The sun moved across the sky. The woman never stopped circling, never stopped singing. 7 of us trapped in a stone box, while something that shouldn't exist wore a path around us. That's when we heard the gunshots. Distant, multiple rifles, coming from the direction of our hilltop camp. The rest of our men. "They're under attack," Pike said. The woman stopped circling. Her head turned toward the sound. For a moment, she seemed to be listening. Then she looked back at us, that eyeless face somehow conveying assessment, consideration. She turned and ran, back up the ravine slope, moving with that impossible speed, disappearing over the top. "She's going after them," Brennan said. "She's going after the rest of the camp. We need to help them," Anders said. "We need to survive," I countered. "The moment we leave this structure, there are men," Pike's voice was hard. "We don't abandon them." He was right. We were soldiers. We didn't leave men behind, even when we should have. We climbed out of the ravine and ran toward the hilltop camp. Heard more gunshots, heard screaming, ran faster. My lungs burned, my legs shook, but I kept running. We burst onto the hilltop to find carnage. Bodies lay scattered around the dead fires. Most of the men, not all, some were missing, but what we found was torn apart with a violence that was systematic, deliberate. She'd moved through the camp like a scythe and nothing had stopped her. But Captain Holloway sat against a tree, alive but staring at nothing. His left arm was gone below the elbow, the stump wrapped in someone's shirt, soaked through with blood. He looked up as we approached. "She came through like a storm," he said. His voice was distant, shock hollow. We fired everything we had. Nothing stopped her. Nothing even slowed her down. She'd grab a man and just tear him apart, then move to the next one. She was singing the whole time. "How many?" Pike asked. "I don't know." Holloway looked at the bodies. 8, 10. She took some, dragged them into the forest. I saw her carry 2 men away, like they weighed nothing. But I counted. 12 bodies visible. 29 had been our number, minus the 12 who'd gone hunting. That meant 17 should have been here, 12 dead, 5 missing, including Holloway, who'd somehow survived. "Where are the others?" I asked. "Ran," Holloway said. 4 of them broke when she came, scattered into the forest. I don't know if they're alive. So we had 7 from our hunting party. 1 wounded captain, 4 missing soldiers. 12 of us, possibly, from 32. "We need to leave these mountains," Marcus said, "now, while we can." "And go where?" Pike asked. "We're 3 days from any settlement. She'll hunt us down before we make it halfway." "Then what?" Brennan's voice cracked. "We can't fight her. We can't hide from her. We can't run. What do? "We kill her," Holloway said quietly. Everyone turned. The captain was staring at his ruined arm. "We kill her the way you kill anything. Fire. We burn her." "We tried shooting her," I said. "Bullets did nothing. Bullets don't destroy. Fire does." Holloway stood, swaying. "She's flesh. Flesh burns. We lure her somewhere we can trap her and we burn her alive." It was insane, but it was also our only option. Pike looked at Marcus. "The structure, can we burn it?" "Stone doesn't burn," Marcus said, "but we could fill it with timber, create a furnace. If we could get her inside." "Those symbols kept her out," Anders said. "We break them," Pike said. "Smash the carvings, let her in, then light it." We spent the next hour preparing, gathered every piece of dry wood we could find, carried it down to the ravine, filled the structure until it was packed tight with kindling and timber, used gunpowder from spare cartridges to create accelerant, smashed the carvings on one wall with rifle butts until the symbols were unrecognizable. "Now we need to lure her," Holloway said. He looked at the rest of us. "She comes for individuals. Someone needs to be bait." "I'll do it," Marcus said immediately. "No," I said. The words came out before I thought them through. "I will." "Marsh," Pike started. "I'm the record keeper, the clerk. I haven't done anything useful this entire time except run and hide. Let me do this one thing that matters." They stared at me. Finally, Pike nodded. "You lead her in, we'll be in position. The moment she enters, we light it." We took our positions. 6 men hidden in the ravine with torches ready. Marcus and Pike flanking the structure entrance. Holloway watching from above, rifle ready despite his injury. And me, standing in the centre of the structure, surrounded by wood and powder, waiting for a monster. I didn't wait long. I heard her singing before I saw her, that melody drifting down from the ravine edge. I looked up, and she was there, standing perfectly still, looking down at me with that eyeless face. "Come on," I said quietly. "Come and get me." She started down the slope, slowly this time, taking her time. She reached the ravine floor and approached the structure. No hesitation now. The broken symbols no longer held her. She walked through the entrance, into the packed timber, moving toward me with calm certainty. I backed away. 1 step. 2. She matched me. Her mouth opened. That horizontal split. Those impossible teeth. The singing came from that darkness, intimate and cold. "Now!" I screamed. Torches flew through the air, landed in the timber. The gunpowder ignited with a whomp that sucked the air from my lungs. Fire erupted on all sides, spreading impossibly fast, climbing the walls of timber, filling the structure with heat and smoke. She was between me and the exit. I'd known that would happen. The plan had always required sacrifice. But Marcus crashed through the flames, grabbed my arm, and dragged me toward a gap in the fire. We stumbled through, my uniform smoking, his hair singed, and rolled clear of the entrance. Behind us, she screamed. Not singing, not hissing, screaming, a sound that was rage and pain, and something older than words. The fire had engulfed the entire structure, flames reaching 20 feet high, and she was inside it. We watched her burn. She fought it, tried to escape, made it to the entrance once, her body engulfed in flames, that faceless head turning toward us. But Pike was there with a burning branch, driving her back in. The structure had become a furnace, heat so intense we had to back away, flames consuming everything. Her screaming continued for 3 minutes, 4, 5, getting weaker, changing pitch, becoming something that wasn't quite sound. Then it stopped. The fire burned for another hour. When it finally died to coals, we approached carefully. The structure was a blackened shell. The timber had burned completely, and in the centre, curled in a fetal position, was what remained. A skeleton, but wrong. Too many ribs. Vertebrae that shouldn't exist. A skull with eye sockets too large and a jaw that opened too wide. And even burned, even dead, it felt wrong to look at. "Is it over?" Brennan asked. "It's over," Marcus said, but he didn't sound certain. We climbed out of the ravine as the sun set, found 3 of the 4 missing soldiers hiding in the forest, drawn by the smoke. Anders had died during the fire. A burning timber had fallen, trapped him. We couldn't save him. 11 survivors from 32. We marched through the night, nobody willing to stay in those mountains another moment. Pushed south without stopping, without resting, driven by fear and exhaustion, and the desperate need to be gone from that place. 3 days later, we reached a Union outpost. The officer there listened to Captain Holloway's report with increasing skepticism. Woman with no face, creature that wouldn't die, soldiers lost to a monster. He wrote it up as Confederate guerrilla attack, more believable, more acceptable. Nobody argued. What could we say that they'd believe? They invalided Holloway out of service. The lost arm made the decision easy. Pike, Marcus, Brennan and I were reassigned to different units scattered across the war. The other survivors went their separate ways. We never spoke about it. What was there to say? Nobody would believe us, and the memories were better left unspoken. I survived the war, went home to Ohio, became a teacher of all things, married, had children, lived a normal life in a normal town far from any mountains. 57 years have passed since 1864. I'm an old man now, my hands shaking as I write this. My children are grown. My wife passed last winter. I have grandchildren who think I'm a curious relic, telling stories about a war they can barely imagine. But I still think about those mountains. I still hear that singing sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet. I know it's memory, not reality. I know she's dead. I saw her burn. I saw the bones. But doubt is a patient hunter. 5 years after the war, I received a letter from Marcus Webb. He'd gone back to those mountains, don't know why. Maybe he needed to confirm it was over. The letter was brief. Found the ravine. Structure still standing, bones gone. New symbols carved everywhere, fresh. Marsh. I don't think she was alone. I don't think we killed the only one. Don't come back here. Don't ever come back. I burned the letter. Last month, I read a newspaper article from West Virginia. 3 hunters vanished in the mountains. Search parties found their camp abandoned, rifles left behind. Found tracks leading into the forest, barefoot tracks. Woman sighs. I told myself it was coincidence. Told myself I was old and paranoid and letting memories twist reality. Told myself many things. But late at night, when sleep won't come, I lie in the dark and listen. And sometimes, just sometimes, I hear singing. Wordless, cold, patient. Like something waiting. Like something that knows I'm still here. I wonder how many of them there are, in the deep mountains where people don't go. I wonder if the structure we burned was a trap or a cage. I wonder if we released something rather than killed it. I wonder if the other survivors hear the singing too, wherever they are. If Pike wakes in the night, listening. If Brennan smells old meat and dirt and reaches for a rifle that isn't there. If Marcus still walks those ridges, searching for answers we'll never find. Private Howell never got to finish his letter to his mother. Father Mackey never said another prayer. Dalton never got to prove his courage meant something. 21 men died in those mountains, and nobody remembers them except me. I keep their names in a book beside my bed. Every night I read them aloud. It's the least I can do, but I never write about what killed them. Until now. I'm writing this because I'm dying. The doctor says I have months, maybe weeks, and before I go, someone needs to know the truth. Someone needs to understand that there are things in the deep forests, in the old mountains, that shouldn't be disturbed. Things that wear shapes that aren't quite right. Things that call to travellers in voices that promise comfort. Things that take men in the night and leave only questions. If you're reading this, heed the warning. Stay out of the deep woods. Don't follow strange sounds. Don't trust figures that appear in the distance. And if you ever see a woman in the forest standing too still, watching you with interest you don't understand, run. Run and don't look back. Because I looked back 57 years ago, and I've been looking over my shoulder ever since. Even now, even dying, I sleep with a lamp lit. Because darkness is when she comes. And I don't think I killed her at all. I think I only made her aware that I exist. And she's been patient all these years, waiting for the right moment to call my name. Sometimes, late at night, I hear her singing, and it sounds like she's getting closer.